office, they put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program.
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been.
And yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed. And you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane, you think that's going to make a difference?
Does it comfort their families?
They are a group of people that have lost their lives, but I think that's not a very smart question.
See, what's even more infuriating is headlines like this. They're not helpful because he didn't imply anything. He and his MAGA contingent set out just 24 hours after lambasting anyone who dare brought up the fact that Trump gutted key aviation safety advisory committee while firing the heads of the TSA and Coast Guard, decided that they'd just blame black people. That's it. So just say it how it is.
Office, they put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, actually their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target.
Something the president said that I think bears re-emphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think—
And good for Kaitlin Collins, not sitting idly by as he spews such unsubstantiated vitriol.
And yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed. And you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane, you think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you.
After the horrific crash at the Reagan National Airport, President Donald Trump began his White House briefing Thursday and continued it into the Oval Office the way that you'd envision a Christian who spent last week lambasting a bishop for asking him to show mercy would do, with a moment of silence and prayer for victims, swiftly followed by a rant against diversity hiring and his allegation, without evidence by the way, that lowered standards were to blame for the crash. Trump jumped from pointing the finger at the helicopter's pilot, air traffic control, his predecessor Joe Biden, and other Democrats, including Obama and former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
64 people lost their lives last night. If you aren't confident that DEI had any role, why bring it up?
Well, all I'm talking about is competence. And we want in that particular position, we have to have the most competent people in our country because we're talking about lives. Now, it may or may not have had to do, but I don't like the fact that the helicopter was at the exact same level as the airplane. The helicopter should have been 1,000 feet or 500 feet above it or something below it. The plane was at 300 to 400 feet. Or the plane should have been stopped because the helicopter could have stopped. The plane can't be stopped, but the plane was on a schedule that was, it was along a track. They call it a track. And it's the same track. Talking about that, we're talking, but air traffic controllers, maybe in particular, they have to be brilliant with computers, brilliant with graphics. They have to be psychologically really, really smart. And, there are a lot of people that wouldn't be able to do that. Sir, thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case, acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything.
And in response to their fearless leader's remarks, they were bad when even Senate Republicans are shying away from backing his claims. Some just blatantly avoided the topic Thursday as they fielded questions from reporters about Trump's comments following the crash. Then there were those like Representative Shelley Moore who told The Hill, quote, "I don't know what DEI would have to do with it." Senator Steve Daines similarly pointed to the NTSB when asked to weigh in on Trump's latest comment, saying, "This is pretty fresh. They haven't even released the names of those who tragically perished, and I'm confident that the NTSB will do a complete, thorough investigation and we'll see what the recommendations are." Right, because no one knows what caused last night's tragic crash outside DCA. Investigations are ongoing, and no one, especially the leader at this moment, should be drawing conclusions until all the facts have been released.
I just watched some of Donald Trump's press conference about the tragedy last night, and it was disgusting. It was disgusting. First of all, our hearts go out to the victims' families, to the first responders. This is awful. But what is also awful is to watch the President of the United States stand up at the White House and claim that it is women or Black people or Latinos working at the FAA that caused this crash. This idea that by hiring non-white men, you are putting the nation's safety in jeopardy, or that non-white men caused this crash, is unconscionable. We need to get to the bottom of what happened. Nobody's going to know today what caused that crash. But what we absolutely know is that it is not women working at the FAA that caused that crash. What we definitely know, it is not Black employees at the FAA that caused that crash. There are some true things. President Trump forced out of office the administrator of the FAA. He's been waging a regular assault on public employees since he came into office. He forced the entire Aviation Security Review Board, Advisory Board, to step down. We don't know whether those things had anything to do with this crash, but we should take the time to get to the facts. And everybody in this country should be outraged that Donald Trump is standing up on that podium lying to you, deliberately lying to you about what the cause was, and further using the White House as a means to try to divide us from each other. That performance was disgraceful, and every single senator and member of Congress should call him out for how disgraceful it was.
Here is what I do know, right? There is nothing more Trumpian than him, 1, firing the head of the TSA and the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, 2, freezing hiring of all air traffic controllers, and 3, firing 100 top FAA security officers, then blaming Black people for his own incompetence as a leader.
Mr. President, on DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had 2 planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened. And we'll see. We're going to look into that. And we're going to see. But certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior. And that's what we're going to have. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Welcome to the next 4 years, folks. Whatever happens to go awry, you'll blame Biden, Obama, DEI, anything that helps deflect from the utterly abhorrent commander-in-chief 70 million people thought would be good to vote back in. Honestly, my God, our thoughts undoubtedly go out to all those impacted by this horrific disaster.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.